Close your eyes for a moment and feel your heart beating. That's exactly how mine was pounding that evening. The crystal chandelier at Boston's most exclusive restaurant. Lawn door cast elegant shadows across the white tablecloth as I watched Scarlett Morrison's perfectly manicured fingers wrap around her third glass of Chateau. Margot, she had no idea who I really was. Not yet. The diamond tennis bracelet on her wrist caught the light, and I felt my stomach turn. It was identical to the one I'd found receipts for in Wesley's study, dated exactly 1 month before our 15th wedding anniversary. My name is Autumn Hayes, and until 6 weeks ago, I was living what everyone considered the perfect life at 38. I had everything society told me I should want: executive position at Goldman Sachs, a historic brownstone in Beacon Hill worth $4.2 million, in a marriage to Boston's most celebrated neurosurgeon, Dr. Wesley Hayes. Our life looked immaculate from the outside: charity gallery summer, weekends in the Hamptons, winter ski trips to Aspen. We were that couple everyone envied, the ones who seemed to have it all figured out. The wine is exquisite, isn't it? I asked, watching her take another nervous sip. She thought she was meeting a potential client for her interior design business, a wealthy divorce looking to renovate a penthouse in Back Bay. If only she knew she was sitting across from her lover's wife. The signs had been there for months, perhaps even years, but I'd chosen to ignore them. The late night surgeries that never appeared on the hospital schedule, the new cologne he only wore to medical conferences, the mysterious charges at hotels just outside the city. But it was the little things that finally broke through my carefully constructed denial. The way he stopped looking me in the eyes during conversations, how he began taking calls in the garden, the subtle change, and how he kissed me goodbye in the mornings. Everything shattered 3 weeks ago during our anniversary dinner at this very restaurant. Wesley was distracted, constantly checking his phone under the table. When I excused myself to the ladies' room, I caught a glimpse of his screen, a text message that read, "Can't wait to hold you again tomorrow, my loves." In that moment, standing in my $122,000 Oscar de la Renta gown, I felt my world implode. But I'm not the kind of woman who breaks down in public restrooms. No, I'm the type who plans, who see you lates, who waits for the perfect moment to strike the next morning. I began my investigation. What I uncovered in the following weeks would shock even the most seasoned private investigators. Tell me more about your design aesthetic, I prompted Scarlett, watching her eyes light up as she launched into a rehearsed speech about modern minimalism and organic elements. She was beautiful, I had to admit. Younger than me, with that effortless grace that comes from never having to worry about money, the kind of woman who could make a man forget his vows, his morals, his entire life. Little did she know that in my Hermes Birkin bag lay evidence of their 3-year affair. Every hotel receipt, every secret message, every little lie carefully documented and organized. But that wasn't even the most shocking part. What I'd discovered went far beyond simple infidelity. It was a web of deceit so intricate, so carefully constructed, that it would make national headlines. When it all came crashing down, "You have such an interesting perspective on life," I said, letting my words hang in the air. The slight tremor in her hand as she reached for her wine glass told me she was starting to sense something wasn't quite right. The evening was young, and I had so much more planned. As the waiter approached with our appetizers, I caught my reflection in the window, poised, elegant, dangerous. The woman staring back at me wasn't the same person who had discovered her husband's betrayal 3 weeks ago. No, she was someone much more powerful, someone who had transformed pain into purpose. "Shall we order another bottle?" I suggested, my voice honey sweet with hidden venom. "We have so much to discuss, and the night is just beginning." Take a deep breath, because what I'm about to reveal will make your heart race and your mind reel. The gentle clink of fine china punctuated the air as our appetizers arrived. Seared FGR for me, oysters Rockefeller for Scarlett. I watched her delicately pick up her fork, her Cartier bracelet, catching the soft candlelight. That very bracelet was the first thread I'd pulled, unraveling the tapestry of lies Wesley had woven around us all. "You know," I began, swirling the Chateau Margaux in my glass. "I've always believed that spaces tell stories. The homes we create, the environments cultivate, their reflections of our inner worlds, aren't they?" Scarlett nodded, eagerly, still under the illusion that this was a potential client meeting. If only she knew the story her own choices had written. My mind drifted back to the day everything changed. Just 3 weeks ago, it was a rainy Tuesday morning, and I was searching for an umbrella in Wesley's study when I accidentally knocked over a stack of papers. As I gathered them, a receipt fluttered to the floor. $112,000 for a Cartier bracelet dated 2 days before our anniversary, a gift. He'd never given me that. Single piece of paper was the key that unlocked Pandora's box. Over the next few weeks, I became a shadow detective in my own home. I hired the best private investigator in Boston, called in favors from old college, friends in the FBI's financial crimes unit, and used every skill I'd honed in my years as a ruthless Wall Street executive to uncover the truth. Tell me about your most challenging project, IPR. Scarlett, watching her eyes light up as she launched into a story about renovating a historic Cape Cod mansion. Little did she know I was intimately familiar with that very property. It was one of the many assets Wesley had hidden from me, purchased through a shell company 3 years ago, just when their affair began. As Scarlett spoke, my mind raced through the evidence I'd uncovered: bank statements revealing transfers of hundreds of thousands of dollars to offshore accounts, email threads discussing property investments in the Cayman Islands, burner phones with messages that made my stomach churn. But it was the video footage that truly shattered my world. The private investigator had placed cameras in locations I'd never imagined: the beach house in the Hamptons, where Wesley claimed to attend medical conferences; the high-rise apartment in Back Bay registered to a non-existent medical research foundation; even the private jet he'd bought shares in. Without my knowledge, the footage showed not just Scarlett, but 2 other women: Melissa Black, UA pharmaceutical rep, and Rebecca Chen, a young neurosurgery resident at Wesley's hospital. You mentioned you enjoy modern art, I said smoothly, steering the conversation. There's a fascinating exhibition at the MFA right now, a series on duality and hidden truths. Have you seen it? Scarlett shook her head, and I couldn't help but appreciate the irony she was living. Her own exhibition of duality, completely unaware of the other women in Wesley's life, just as I had been blind to all of them. The main course arrived: pan-seared scallops for her, beef tenderloin for me. As we ate, I continued to probe each question, a carefully laid trap. How do you balance your professional life with personal commitments? I asked, watching her paw. Mid-bite, it can be challenging, Scarlett admitted, a flicker of guilt crossing her features, but I believe in making time for what truly matters. If she only knew how those words echoed the lies Wesley had told me. Countless times, late nights at the hospital, weekend conferences, charity events, all fabrications to cover his elaborate double life, no triple life, quadruple. If you counted the life he shared with me, his lawful wife, as we conversed, my mind replayed the most devastating discovery of all. It wasn't just the affairs, the hidden properties, or the financial deceit. It was the life insurance policy I'd found taken out in my name for $10 million, with a suspicious clause about extreme sports accidents, coupled with an email thread I'd uncovered discussing our upcoming hiking trip to Vermont. The implications were chilling. My husband wasn't just cheating on me, he was planning to kill me. You know, I said, leaning in conspiratorially. I've always believed that trust is the foundation of any relationship, personal or professional. I watched Scarlett's face carefully as I continued. Don't you find it fascinating how people can compartmentalize their lives, present one face to the world, while hiding so much beneath the surface? A flicker of unease crossed Scarlett's face, quickly masked by a practiced smile. I suppose we all have our secrets, she replied, reaching for her wine glass with a slightly trembling hand. Indeed, we do, I murmured, allowing a hint of steel to enter my voice. But some secrets have a way of coming to light, don't they? The between us crackled with tension. Scarlett's eyes darted around the restaurant as if I could show you. The sunsets are particularly breathtaking from the overwater bungalows at the St. Regis. I reached for my phone, watching panic flood her eyes. Who are you? Scarlett whispered, the facade of the confident interior designer crumbling before my eyes. I leaned back, allowing a small, dangerous smile to play across my lips. I'm someone who believes in justice, Scarlett, and in ensuring that people face the consequences of their actions. With deliberate slowness, I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila envelope. Before we proceed, there's something I'd like to show you, something I think will change the course of this evening and your life dramatically. Scarlett's hands shook as she reached for the envelope, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and dawning realization. As she began to open it, felt a surge of adrenaline course through my veins. This was the moment I'd been planning for weeks, the culmination of sleepless nights and tearful days of rage transformed into cold, calculating purpose. Be careful what you wish for, Scarlett, I said softly. Sometimes the truth is far more devastating than any lie. As she pulled out the contents of the envelope, I watched her face transform from confusion to shock to abject horror. Photos of her and Wesley together, bank Statements showing transfers of hundreds of thousands of dollars email, printouts discussing their future plans, and something else, something that would shatter her world just as thoroughly as mine had been. Shattered this. This can't be real, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the soft piano, music playing in the restaurant. Oh, but it is, I replied, my voice steady and cold. Every document, every photo, every piece of evidence is very, very real, and it's just the beginning. The look of utter devastation on Scarlett's face should have brought me satisfaction. Instead, I felt a strange mix of pity and resolve. She was just another pawn in Wesley's game, albeit a willing one. But what she was about to learn would test the limits of her complicity and challenge everything. She thought she knew about the man she'd given her heart to, I said, signaling to the waiter for another bottle of wine. Let's talk about Wesley Hayes and the intricate web of lies he's woven around all of us, because, my dear Scarlett, you're not the only one he's been lying to, and what I'm about to tell you will change everything. You thought you knew about your perfect lover. The waiter arrived with a fresh bottle of Chateau Margaux, pouring it with practiced elegance. As he retreated, I raised my glass, a toast to the destruction of carefully constructed illusions to truth. I said, my eyes locked on Scarlett's tear-filled ones, and to the sweet, bitter taste of revenge. Brace yourself for the moment when everything changes. The crystal stemware trembled in Scarlett's hand as she raised her glass, her perfectly applied makeup now streaked with silent tears. To truth, she echoed hollowly, her voice barely above a whisper. I leaned forward, my voice low and intense.